Hello ladies, I hope you're all doing well at home, and some of us are in the middle of a very big heat wave, and I find I can bear it quite nicely if I keep my thoughts on things that are cool and lovely. And so I hope that you'll practice that too. I'm Mrs. Sherman, and I am putting this video on a post where I've provided a link in the description box. If you like, you can go over there and listen to it and then see what the other pictures are that I've put there and see some other things that are going on, and you can also leave a comment there. I don't have comments on the channel. Well, now our state is open. Should we be grateful to our governor who has put us through so much and never even bothered to apologize for the inconvenience? And all the stores are open, so I wondered if I should try it, and I said to myself, it's a tempting idea, but not enough to tempt me to give up my freedom at home to go out. I did have to go to the grocery store, and I was very disappointed that in all this time, it's been a year and a half, almost 2 years, people that stayed home have changed their lives, changed their homes around, repainted, redone things, and also changed some of the way they earn a living and the methods that they use for earning that living, and they have changed many things in their lives. They've changed spiritually, they've changed commercially and physically, and everyone has made some kind of progress and are much happier. But go into town and absolutely nothing in my town has changed. They haven't bothered to do anything to attract the customer back. Everything is just you would think they would at least stock their shelves in a different way or arrange the store in a different way, but of course they didn't get their orders from the headquarters like they did with the war, so they're not going to do anything. So I wasn't, it didn't make it worth me going back, so I'm going to continue to order because I missed my time at home. It took me a while to get there and to get back, and then I was very tired. So I think I'm going to continue in this ordering food at home, and I'm happy with it. So now that everything's open, I think they should have at least restaged the shopping areas or done something to make it more comfortable for the customer. But what we have seen is that these employees and these owners, or if they are owners of these shops, absolutely could turn on us in an instant if they got notification from on high, their headquarters, that they weren't to speak to us or they weren't to be nice to us. They could absolutely start ordering us about again. I saw that so quickly. They were turned into they got marching orders, and they wanted us to march too. So I just quit going, and this is the first time I had really been out in a year commercially, and I thought I had missed it, and I thought maybe there was something special about it, but no, I'm not convinced. And so today I want to talk a little bit about the home and why it takes courage. It takes courage not only to become a homemaker, but to do some of the monstrous jobs around. Have you ever had a laundry room that fell apart? Just from maybe an overabundance of laundry, or a washer or dryer that quit working, or just you didn't get around to fixing it up, and you see that daunting job from a distance and you don't want to go in there. And I was going to talk a little bit about courage and how it applies to homemaking. Now, when my kids were here, they liked going through the etymology of words. Now, in doing this and finding the meanings of words and the core of a word, the basis of a word, we have to be careful that we don't always just follow it for its definition, because a word put in a sentence has to go by what the meaning of the sentence is and what the context is, and you can't always. Sometimes the meaning will change slightly according to what kind of a sentence it is, and you have to be careful too when you're reading the Bible, because some of those words yes, we can learn the meanings of words and go into deep word study, but that word might not mean the same thing in every single scripture, because it might have a different Greek word or Aramaic word or Hebrew word that's the basis, and the English being different. So one of the words that we looked up that we really enjoyed talking about together, and of course my kids are almost all over 40 now, so we really enjoyed this word. And I talked about how one of the things people had to come up with when the war came was courage. The courage to find something worthwhile, meaningful at home, to do something that had value to their families and to themselves and gave them confidence and dignity in the Lord, and a reason for living. You know, we have this book for homeschool called A Reason for Writing, for handwriting for younger children. Well, we need a reason for living and a reason for what we do so that it makes sense and gives us a worth in life. And so courage means, the root word for courage is core, C-O-R-E, and that word means heart, from the heart. And from there we found other words with that word in it, cur or core, and it meant from the heart. And we found some medical terms with that word in it, meaning the heart. But courage means from the heart. And you know, I've often read that scripture that where God told somebody, was it in the Old Testament, have courage and I will give you strength? And I often wondered, okay, yeah, I know you're going to give me strength, but where do I get the courage from? Well, once I learned the core meaning, that it meant from the heart, it just means put your heart into it. Put your heart into it, and then I will give you, put your willingness into it, and I will give you strength. Okay, that makes a lot more sense to me. I got that. I had a huge problem in the kitchen this morning, and I just wondered if I was ever going to get out of it. But I got up this morning, and in spite of my well-appointedness around here and my highfalutin ways, I got ants. And I suppose, you know, the Bible talks about the ant and the spider and how it'll live in a castle just as easily as it will in a poor man's house. So it isn't a respecter of persons. And I was almost insulted because these ants came in. They were all over everything. And even though I thought my kitchen was clean, so I had to spend several hours cleaning that up. But first I looked at it and I thought, Lord, I've got to have courage to do this. And then I remembered that word, core, from the heart. Have a heart. Put your heart into it. And what it means is, it's not like, you know, the physical beating heart, but it's like your mind and your determination and heartfeltness to it. And I remembered that, and I said, well, I'll just put my heart into it, like this is the only job I have, and I'm going to get paid $1 million for it. And I did. I got it cleaned up, and I was up so early that Mr. S got up. He didn't even know it happened because the kitchen was back to normal. But boy, I had that thing torn up so bad, clearing off everything, cleaning everything, washing everything all over again. And so have courage, and I will give you strength. And courage, the root word is core, and it means heart, from the heart. So put your heart into it. Have a good attitude. I don't know how often I ask that question. Okay, well, where am I supposed to get the courage? He said, have courage, and I will give you strength. Well, that's our part. Have courage. Well, where am I supposed to get that? Well, that just means put your heart in it, be sincere, and do your best. And so I want to talk a little bit about, you know, doing that for your home, because it does take courage. You know, I don't think that the homemaker is really given very much respect and any kind of a nod from anybody as to people don't understand what she does. It isn't just the work, it's being a motivator, and it's being someone who's helping her family on their goals in life, and they help her too. And I think that they should follow someone around who truly is homemaking, who's really doing more than just cleaning. And housekeeping is not the same as homemaking. You could probably hire someone to do the housekeeping, to wash the dishes, to do the laundry. But homemaking means many more things. It's putting your all five senses into it so that it makes a feeling of home. And I've quoted to you out of many books that have divided it into senses. I think we could probably suffice just by what the Bible says, that the woman is to guide and guard the home, and the home is interactive with the family. That those two words interact in the Bible, or are pretty much the same, the home and family. And so she's responsible to help them and to encourage them as well. And she should never be passive. And the danger of being passive, of course, there will be women who will say, well, I want to wash the kitchen floor, but everybody's going to object because they want to be in there, or they don't really want me cleaning, or something like that. And the trouble with being too passive is that you have to use your mind to develop their sensibilities too. And if you know that that floor is very unsanitary, it's had some things spilled on it, and it needs to be cleaned up, then you have an obligation to protect them from the filth. So that's what you do, is you have a responsibility, and you're protective, and you're guarding and guiding the home. So you must clean. I've known people who think it's somehow lacking in sincerity if the woman wants to clean house. They think she's obsessed. They think she lacks intellectual ability or heart or warmth because she's cleaning. That's not true at all, but that's been something that's been spread to intimidate people who really want a nice clean house. And I've even heard people say to women who are working at home and cleaning it and taking care of it, "Why are you always working?" And I heard a woman say to her grandson, who was asking her, why you're so busy, you're moving around all the time, you're always moving things and cleaning things. And he said, "Why are you always moving? Why are you always working?" And she said, "Because I want you and the other descendants in my family to have good memories, a clean house that smells nice and that is sanitary, and they won't get sick." And so that stopped that rumor. So the way I talk to you on these videos is the way that I would have talked to my children when they were home, or when they come around still. We talk about these things. And one of the problems that women have had in staying home is this feeling of inadequacy or guilt, that they're home. They think they're not helping out. They're not earning a living. There's nothing in the Bible that says she should earn the living. But a man is supposed to look after his family. It's been that way for ages. And society did not have a biblical right to change that. And women who go along with it don't realize that the home is their total responsibility. And one of the things that being in captivity has really helped me understand is money. Because if I'm not out there letting it go out of my bank account or my purse, there's more there. And I can actually look around so that I don't have to go out. I was tempted several times to go out and get something, and then I got to thinking harder. When you are in need of something or more desperate, you get smarter. And so I would think, what would be a great substitute for that? For instance, I wanted to find a special kind of ribbon for something that I was sewing. And I thought, I don't really need to do that. I'll go through my box of all these notions and accessories, and I'll find something that will suffice. And I found a piece of fabric that I could fold over and stitch the edges together that would work with this. And also many other things I have really wanted. I wanted a zipper, but I didn't see any point in going so far just for a zipper. That's always the way it is, isn't it? You've got to buy something else to make it worthwhile. So I got to thinking in the recesses of my mind, things I had put away, things I had saved. I know they make a lot of fun of people who save the plastic bags that bedding comes in and has a little zipper on it, but I had one. And so I cut the zipper out and picked out the stitches and used it for a garment I was making. It worked pretty well. and other things that I have saved because I thought, well, usually I save something for a while and then I throw it away because it doesn't seem right to throw it away right away. But I'm starting to dig further and use those things that people would have laughed at me earlier for saving. So I always have in the recesses of my mind and my memory things that I could use as substitutes to going out. And it's the same with things. I like to sew fabric, and fabric is important to me. But when I start getting a low and maybe there's just a little piece I need, whereas I used to include that on my list when I went out and get an extra piece, or fourth of a yard, half a yard, just to finish a project. I don't do that anymore. I figure out how to blend another piece in all around and just stretch that fabric. And I also know how to take scraps. When you cut out a pattern, there's little pieces left. I know how to sew those all together and make another yard. And I've really been enjoying this way of life. It's similar to other wars that some of us haven't even been through. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about sewing because I know some of you want to sew, but one of the things I think that has really discouraged women from sewing is the tedious way in which it was taught. I went to sewing classes in high school in the olden days, and I caught on right away because my desire was so great. Nothing could throw me off, nothing could daunt me, although I came to tears many times because here's the problem. You've got your sewing patterns and all the rules, and you've got to learn all about the measuring, and you've got to learn all about which side of the pattern you lay down and then you've got to mark your pattern with a little tracing wheel. And it was just so tedious. Of course, I depended on it because I was from a very large family that would not ever have been able to provide me with clothing beyond what absolutely was necessary. And I wanted to sew, and I found out that if I sewed, in fact, before I attended those classes, I knew how to use a needle and thread and scissors, and I would cut out pieces of fabric and one time I forget what it was I wanted, some kind of a garment, and it was for summer. And so I cut out some pieces and sewed it hand sewed it and tried to make it. I didn't know there was such a thing as a pattern, and sewed that rather quickly, and I was so happy. But then, of course, we got in school and they taught us how to use patterns, and I became dependent on patterns. And that is one of the things that makes it hard on women because you've got to lay this pattern out, and it's actually such hard labor. It's almost back-breaking experience to cut out a pattern. And then there are other things that they're supposed to know. And all of these things were in the course, and we had to know what they were and fill in the blanks when it came for a test and everything. It just made sewing less exciting. And most of the girls in that class did not want to sew after that. They sewed what was necessary to pass, and that was it. Well, I have a granddaughter who sews freehand, and I was watching her the other day and wondering how she did this. She wants something, so she draws it on a piece of paper, and then she writes down what colors she wants on the sleeves and on the front and the back and the ruffle, and she's got it all designed. And then she goes into my fabric stash and she picks out what she wants. She brings it out here. The first time I watched her, she never cut anything. She just she had an old dress, and she laid it. She folded it in half and then laid it on the fold, and then cut around it with ample seam allowance, only more than needed, not the 5/8 inch, about an inch, made it real loose all the way around. And then another time when she was sewing, she didn't even cut at all. She just tore the fabric. She just held it up against her like this, and then she tore it. And she tore the front and the back, and she tore a sleeve, and it just saved a lot of time. I was watching how she did this. She's not been taught this, but her instincts are great. And then when she sews it all together, she knows how much a seam allowance is, and she does the sewing machine really well. And if she makes a mistake, she doesn't spend this tedious time picking out the stitches. She just sews over it or cuts it off and sews over it again, and then or adds a piece of fabric in it and redoes it, redo it, and then she does not mess around with facings or zippers or buttons. She will run a little bit of elastic through the sleeves, and if she doesn't have elastic, she'll just run a ribbon through it and tie it, or a string. And for facings, she just does this. She just turns it under like this, and under again, and then stitches it down. She does not iron like we press all the seams open and stuff. She doesn't bother with that. And sometimes she just doubles her fabric. The front and the back are the same. She doesn't make the back or front one lower and one higher or anything. She cuts all that out. And she doubles the fabric and makes a natural lining. So then she doesn't have to wear a petticoat with it. If it's thin fabric, she just doubles it and then turns it inside out, and she's got a nice little seam here and a facing. I have not figured out how she's doing those sleeves, but I think what she's doing, and she has the most delightful sleeves I have ever seen, and I do want to include some pictures of it here, close-ups of her sleeves and hems and things. And she puts ruffles on everything, and she doesn't put a running stitch and gather the ruffles and pin them like we did. What she does is she starts sewing, and then she makes little tucks and pushes it through the presser foot, and that way it's automatic. And she does it while she has it on the garment, so it's automatically ruffled and stitched to the garment. Oh, she's got so many, and it's not like she figured out these time-saving tricks. She just isn't held back by all this training that we got. She doesn't make it hard labor like we did. Like, I've got a couple of garments cut out that I just can't seem to get around to. And she doesn't even have to have a cutting table all spread out. She used a little piece of a corner that was clean on the dining table and cut this garment out. And then I think she lays the sleeve piece flat and opens the garment up where the front and the back are like this, and then she stitches it on flat. Then she sews the underarms together down the seam. I'm trying to think what else that she does. She likes little belts. What she does is she makes a dress that's very tent-like. So she just pull it over her head. It's very loose. And then she makes an OB belt that goes around like this, ties in the back or comes around in the front. And she makes belts out of everything. She's even made, I had this pre-gathered ruffle from Hobby Lobby that was about that wide. And so she made a belt just at the top of it so that it looked like a ruffle, and put attached grosgrain ribbon to it and tied it in the back. And that way she makes them very quickly. I mean, she could do a dress a day or two a day so quickly this way. And I call it her freehand sewing, and it looks good. It's not like she took this piece and that piece and they don't match, but the sleeves are this. She doubles everything. She cuts everything the same. The front and the back are the same. She wouldn't have a ruffle at the bottom that was small at one end and big at the other, but if she did, she would make it look very stylish. Trying to think of some other things that she does, and I will try to include some pictures of it, because I pinned them on the line so she could have a line of clothing. And she made a 4th of July dress, and it was a beautiful royal blue with a white sash around it. She also likes to stitch colored ribbon around everything, and to me, her garments look very traditional. I would say Swiss, Scandinavian. Something about them looks very like the traditional costume of those places. Or it could be probably anywhere. It could probably be anywhere, and I'll show them to you. So she was excited about sewing, but once we showed her, how a pattern worked and tried to make a dress with a pattern, it was so tedious and took so long. But she learned how things are put together, and so she can attach a skirt to a bodice very easily, because she did it once with a pattern, and so she knows how to do it now by hand. I found that I'd really like to learn her technique, but I'm too frightened to leave my old tedious ways that are such hard labor that I can't get anything done. But I really would maybe get some fabric just for that, to see if I could do it. And I think you'll be impressed. But I think we make life hard for people when we start showing them how to do it. You'll see a child that will be doing really well in something, and then someone comes along and wants to make them follow a bunch of rules, and they lose interest. So today also I want to talk a little bit about health, because I missed it last time. And I want to encourage you in several areas of health, because that is how you get your motivation and energy and peace of mind at home. And a lot of times the reason we have so much anxiety has to do with our health, and they mix together. You have anxiety, it affects your health. If you have bad health, it creates anxiety. I wish it weren't that way, but the body and the mind are so intricately connected that if you should hurt your foot or hurt your finger, automatically you feel alert. You feel, and maybe even a little bit, if you get sick, of course, you're going to feel a little depressed. So we'll start with sleep, how important sleep is. Now, I'm an expert at not getting enough sleep, and I'm also an expert at getting a lot of sleep. It just depends, but I'm an expert at getting up in the night, and I slept until 6 o'clock this time, so my body is going around a very strange way. And without sleep and with lack of sleep, of course, you're tired, you're dragging around, and if you haven't slept, or if you get up in the night and you just can't sleep. But I don't ever just lay there hoping to go back to sleep. If I wake up and I don't fall asleep within a few minutes, I will just get up and do something and feel a lot better about myself and about my house, and catch up on some correspondence or do something quiet or try. That's the whole trouble of getting up in the night when you can't sleep, is it's to wake everybody up when you're trying to do some work and you can't do anything that isn't quiet. That's a big problem. So lack of sleep can make you feel irritable, and but so here is where you use your self-control. Yes, you say, I didn't have much sleep last night. But try to be kind anyway. That's the big test of character, isn't it? When, we've excused people over the years. Psychology has excused everyone. Well, they're having a hard time in life, And people that are very rude will say, well, they have hard times at home. They have, a mean husband or something like that. But this is not right. So whatever the circumstances, if you've lost sleep and you haven't done very well, or you feel very tense, you can still be kind and good, and you can still do a worthwhile job at home. So test yourself and see if this is right. So the body and the mind are so well connected. It's just not fair, is it? But that's the way it is. So lack of sleep can make you feel irritable, but I will tell you about, since I'm such an expert at it, is that you're not going to stay awake forever. No one ever stays awake forever. So don't resort to chemicals to change it. Just leave it alone and be natural. Get some fresh air and get some exercise. And lots of water. We'll get to that pretty soon. Also, if you will let things go, things will correct themselves. And it's probably, because I first remember having a sleep disorder back when I was 18. There was one night that I just didn't sleep, and I was astonished, what happened. But it eventually corrected itself. And sometimes it's an indication that you need to make some changes in your life, or you're feeling very alert about something. You don't quite know what it is, and so you wake up and you can't sleep and you haven't figured it out. But eventually, it does straighten itself out, and you could also make some life changes. And for me, of course, it's trying to get the house where everyone is comfortable and where things can function more smoothly, and where we're not always working. So I want to get it to where it's efficient and everybody can do what they need to do in order to be functional in life. So fresh air is very, very important. If you haven't got a place to go, or if you've figured out there are some times during the day which the air seems more pure than other times, that would be, I imagine that would be early in the morning anyway. So if you don't sleep, you can always go get some fresh air. But lack of fresh air can make you feel stifled mentally. It's very important for the mind to have fresh air. And then, so I've done sleep. Sleep is, and also rest. Rest and sleep. Rest is also important. It's really important after you do a task at home to recover from it. Like after I did the kitchen, I went and sat down in a chair for a while and leafed through my notes and looked at the recent Victoria magazine and Tea Time magazine. And after a while, I felt my body revive a little bit, so I got up to do something else. So you should recover from everything you do. Our grandmothers did that. They would be doing something in the house, and then they would go and sit down. And I think that having children around is a wonderful advantage because you can sit down and go through a book with them and read them and hold them, and that provides some of your rest. So lack of good nutrition can make you, let's say you've gotten really low on your food supply, and so you're down to your the ketchup that's left in the fridge and a few slices of bread, the way students eat. And so you immediately see it and feel it. It can you can start to feel slow in judgment. You can start to feel not quite as alert and as keen or as enjoying life as much as these kinds of things. Poor nutrition can slow your mind down, and your judgment and your thinking might not be as good, especially if you've got too much sugar in your diet. Sugar is a real problem, and I'm not just talking about cane sugar, that white stuff, but I'm talking about other things that have even the natural sugar in it. It has to be imbalanced. And if you don't get pure water, your mind doesn't feel fresh and renewed either. And so it's very important to have a clean water supply. And if you have trouble drinking water, then drink it out of a special glass. Have a special goblet or something that you drink it out of to encourage you to drink it. And you can put a little bit of fruit juice in it, or a cucumber, or anything like that, just to give it some flavor. So you have to have good nutrition, good sleep and rest, and good water. Now, not just water for drinking, but water for your body, for bathing. And so if you don't get the right kind of, if you don't get time to bathe, you don't feel dignified. So it's going to affect your feeling of self-worth in your mind. And that's why I say, before you do your housework, do some, spend some time in the bathroom and clean up and get, as good looking as you can. And if you don't have the right kind of exercise, your mind can get depressed. It's like if you've ever felt ill and you spend a little bit of time lying down, after a while, you might be tempted to be depressed. And that's part of the connection that the mind has with the body. The other thing is, if you're not breathing properly or exercising properly, going for walks, you may or if your posture's not good, it affects your mind too. And so a lot of things that happen in the home, where a homemaker might get depressed and her house might fall apart, it might have to do with her health. And so I'd like to say, take a 15-minute time period before you get started on your life at home, if you possibly can. I understand that with people around, it might not be possible. But take 15 minutes and spend 5 minutes on stretching exercises, 5 minutes to drink your water and take your bath or shower, and 5 minutes to rest, and relax and make your list. And also dress yourself in good clothing. Now, when I say what you wear also affects your mind, and how your mind functions is going to be reflected in your homemaking. Now, let's say, for instance, I have emphasized wearing natural fibers like cottons and woolens and things that are from nature, made from plants that we know of, and because they are a lot more comfortable in the home. Things that are made with oils and polyester, like nylon and stuff. My mother-in-law was wearing a dress made of pure polyester. It was when the polyester was at its height and most popular. And she had bought herself a dress out of it, and she got really hot in that dress, and she had a stroke. I always wondered, I'm sure there were other reasons, but I always wondered about that dress, because when we checked her, she was wet all the way inside of her, and that polyester dress had held in all this moisture. Now, I get people arguing with me all the time about that, but I really believe that the cottons and the linens and the silks and things are really better for the body, and ancient people got by with them, and some of the modern fabrics I'm not really sure about. I don't like sewing them, that's for sure. I love the way cotton goes through the machine, and I love the way the scissors cut it, and I like the way how much easier it is to sew a seam. And so take some time out for yourself. Give yourself 15 minutes. And then also your prayer and meditation and thought time, very, very important to think on the things that are lovely and good, and to pray that God will give you strength to do the things that you need to do, and pray for every member of your family. Do you ever think that if you weren't there wouldn't be anybody praying for maybe certain members of your family? You might be the only one praying for members of your family. Have you ever thought about that? Think about someone in your family, maybe your immediate family across, or your descendants, or someone else. Think about those family members and ask yourself, I wonder if anyone else is praying for them, or for friends. And I've had quite a few of those. I've just spent a little bit of time before I get started on the home and the homemaking. I spent a little bit of time praying for friends a couple of weeks ago, and I had a list of 5 friends who were my age that were all having troubles with either selling their house or getting getting some of their finances straightened out and everything, and all those problems came about and came out good. And so don't forget to pray. Now, if you have a lot of stress in your life, you can feel it in your back and in your shoulders, and it can affect your mind too, make you feel unbalanced and even crazy. If there's arguing in your home, it can make you feel, I'll tell you what people do sometimes, even those that don't live in your home but somehow want to unseat you and undermine you, is they know how to make you feel crazy. They will tell you that you are crazy. And what you have to do is look around and see how your homemaking is going, and if you need to do anything, if the laundry is done, the dishes are done, if the yard looks nice, if the patio looks nice, if your clothes are hanging up orderly in your closet, everything's put away, and the halls are clean, and there's no toys for people to fall on or hurt themselves on. And if in general the house looks really good, that you could at the spur of the moment get out some tea and make a cup of tea for someone who came by suddenly, then you're not crazy. Crazy people don't do things like that. Crazy people don't clean the sink. Crazy people don't wash the floor. Crazy people don't try to prevent. They aren't frugal. They aren't people that are content at home. So don't let people tell you that. And if they do, you can smile at them. They hate that. So to reduce anxiety, Keep to some interests that you have. Think of what you'd really like to do after you finish doing something in the home that needs to be done, cleaning the bathroom or the kitchen. Think about something that you really want to do. And I was thinking while I was cleaning up those ants today, I'd really like to work on my dollhouse. I've got the outside cleaned up. I'm going to finish cleaning. I'm renovating. I need a picture for you because I'm renovating, and I pulled out all the old wallpaper, and it's laying all over the floors in this dollhouse. And I also need to do the same thing in my house. But that interests me because after I get that all down, then I can paint and put the furniture in. And so to reduce anxiety, keep to some of your interests that have made you happy in the past. And it is possible, some women, even if they're not homemakers, wake up with a fear of impending trauma for the day. That's not normal. And you can alleviate quite a bit of that through the stretch exercise, the breathing, learn how to breathe. You can find many instructions online for any of this. The drinking the water, the prayer time, the good nutrition, and fresh air, and not arguing can reduce the anxiety. Other things are the calm things that you can do that you like to do in the home. So staying home for me, especially during captivity, now a lot of women have stayed home, but many of us just weren't really home because we're always on the go. Appointments, getting things that needed to be done for the home, changing the tires, getting the cars changed out, and oh my goodness, it's just all kinds of stuff you had to be running around for. But for me, it reduced the tension because I noticed that the things that I wanted to do when I was running so much, they became a burden in a rush situation, such as sitting down and writing a letter to someone that I liked. It became a chore. But without that demand on my time, and when I just refused to go out and I said I was in captivity, writing a letter was just a lot more pleasure. And also sitting down and talking to somebody. I wasn't looking at my watch, and I wasn't in a hurry. And then other things that I wanted to do, like paint a picture, it wasn't as stressful. I could have done all that, but it would have been just one more thing to do. But when you decide to stay home and just say goodbye to that world, because it's never going to give us a break, I'll tell you, then things that you do at home become less of a burden. So the more time you are at home, the more confidence and the more calm that you will have. Sometimes we're bringing home the tension from somewhere else. It might not be that way for everyone, but I believe that you'd probably be healthier at home too. So if you don't want to call it exercise, just call it life lift. Say, I've got to do my 5 minutes life lift today, and that way it doesn't seem like work. If you notice, many things that we learned in my generation just were stressful, a strain. I mean, we had exercise in high school back in the olden days before I homeschooled my children, and they just managed to make it miserable. They managed to make the sewing miserable, the exercise miserable. They managed to make just about everything we did a chore, and not something that people would just want to do in their free time, So I think we do that to ourselves too. We make everything a burden. We make it hard labor, everything we do. Even these painting classes that I sometimes take, if I'm not careful, I'll want to do it all right and make it into a burden. And so homemaking becomes a lot more of a loving task when you're home, and the more that you're home, the more that it becomes second nature to you. Now, it's second nature to many of us because our parents, our grandparents, our mothers, our grandmothers, and our great-grandmothers, and our great-grandmothers were homemakers. So we saw that, and we said, well, they stayed home, I can stay home. And even in the 60s, 50s and 60s, when people were trying to change our minds, you could say, well, show me in the Bible, where it says that I have to go out there with the men and do all this work and bring home all this money. And many women missed out on the love of life and the love of their children because they felt compelled to always be going and getting a job. And it can be hard because before you know it, you don't even intend to do it, but someone pressures you, or they get you to pressure yourself. But if our grandmothers did it and our great-grandmothers did it, why can't we do it? And the Bible does say that, and Titus 2 talks about it, in 1 Timothy 5:14, I think, too. The women were to guard and guide the home and keep the home, keep house. So we're going to do a butler school the next visit. We've had the train ride in our home where I turned my home into a train. And we've had the inn on at Calm Village, where they came to an inn, and I made my home like an inn. And we had programs, and we had activities, and then we did the lake house. This last time that one of the families came, we did the lake house, and that was really nice. Really enjoyed that. Everybody just was on their own and created their own activities, and individually, got their own food, and then jumped in the lake, which was just a stock tank. And so this next visit, I even bought a little extra time so I could prepare. I begged them not to come back until I got this ready. I'm doing a butler school. Now, the reason that I'm doing butler school is because I'm going to equip everyone to be their own butler. That means they'll butler themselves. They'll take care of themselves. So that when you go to their room, you won't see anything left out. And they also will know where everything is, and they can find it quite quickly. They can unload, unpack, load up again. They can bust their own table, clear off and wash their dishes. And so they'll have a dishwashing lesson, and I want to read to you a little bit about, this is called The Butler's Guide to Running the Home and Other Graces. Now, I'm not going to push you to buy this, but I got it from Thrift Books, and every now and then Thrift Books lets you get a free book, so I think this was one of my free ones. And so it's The Butler's Guide to Running the Home and Other Graces, and I believe that this man was a butler back in the olden days. I mean, really olden days, not my olden days, but maybe back in the 1940s. And he worked for some segment of royalty at one time. And so I want to I've read some of this book to you before, but because I'm researching this now, I think I'm just going to do hands-on learning, rather than having them fill out worksheets or anything like that. And I am going to read them this little part here, so I thought I would share it with you since I'm homeschooling you. And now that I'm elderly, I can boss you. There are not many people older than me now, so I can really boss everybody. They never do what I tell them to. Nobody ever obeys me, but at least I can boss. So, running the home. And I really like the sketches and things. It's very similar to the Emily Barnes book, the way it's set up, and I like the fact that the pages have an outline around them, and they have table settings. And a butler, when I mentioned butler to one of my friends that we were going to do butler week, they said, oh, yes, the ones that sweep the crumbs off the table into the little dustpan. And you could get them all to serve each other at the table. Well, it's far more than food and table. And the butler was responsible for everything. He had to book the train tickets. He had to make sure the luggage got there. He had to unpack. He had to clean house, too, in some respects. That's why he has a section in here on washing dishes. And he had to make sure the appointments were being kept, and also has a whole section in here on how to iron a shirt and how to hang clothing, how to put it away, how to keep it fresh, and how to take care of the fireplace if he had to. There were other people that did a lot of this, but the butler knew how to do many different things in the home. and was just almost like a homemaker. And I got it for my own information years ago because I wanted to run the home like a butler. I thought it would put a new light on it and take a, if you do the same thing for many years, it can get tedious if you're not careful. So we're always looking for different ways to be interesting at home. And I think you've probably noticed I've changed everything out here. I've turned it all white because we were going through a heat wave, and I thought white would make me feel cooler. So the house is now white, and it looks like a scene in Jane Austen's Persuasion, when all the removers were going to come and all the furniture was covered in white coverings. And so it's looking a little bit like that here, and I hope to get some pictures for another slideshow. There are some rooms you have never seen, but they are such busy places and in such disarray that I wouldn't be happy showing a picture of them till I get them in order. And one is the library, which is down at the end of the hall, and there's a chair over there that you can sit on and pull out books and look in. And the other is the bathroom, which is very old and decrepit. I'm not really ready to show that off yet. And then the other one is the kitchen. I rarely show the kitchen or the dining room. Those rooms are crammed full of stuff unrelated to dining and kitchen-y. And so, but I am attempting to get those ready for a slideshow because you've never seen them. And then I have another room, which is the laundry room, which is also the pantry, and I have a coffee station back there too for Mr. S, and it's near his office, and you've never seen his office. Then I have another room, which used to be the garage, which was developed, has a nice floor in it, and it was meant to be a master bedroom. Unfortunately, it was always a storage room and still is, and so we're busy separating the storage from the actual bedroom part, and I haven't ever gotten that decorated or put to my preferences yet. So there are lots of things to show you. Plus I have a back patio, a porch, and many other areas that you have never seen. So that gives me some goals and some things towards which to work. But I do tend to take pictures of the same rooms all the time because they're not used as much as these other working areas. So I'm going to read this. I have read this before, a year ago or so. Running the home. The three most important qualities for running a home are punctuality, organization, and cleanliness. I'm really going to emphasize that, I think, for those who are coming to the class. Now, I don't know if I'm going to get them a certificate or not, but I'm going to give them a chance to be head butler. If they do well, I'll graduate them to head butler, but they'll just be butlers of themselves. It'd be nice, to send them home and where they can also he also made sure that the laundry was sent to the laundry people, and he supervised so many things in the home. It wasn't about bringing a plate of food to serve, or it wasn't all about the table. If you master these three things, everything should fall in place. Now, wouldn't that be nice? We could do that, couldn't we, at home? Punctuality, organization, and cleanliness. We can do that. I love that idea that you could use those three things and master them, and everything else would fall in place. Wouldn't that be the truth? For me, the first step in running a house is to get up early and leisurely in the morning. Now, I studied a little bit more about what he said about that. If you wake up early, you can lay there a little bit longer. But if you wait till the last minute to get out of bed, then you're running and rushing and trying to play catch up. But he said the first step is to get up early and leisurely in the morning. That means you've got time to walk sleepy-eyed over to your tea station in your room, pour yourself a nice cup of strawberry tea, and then you've got time to sit and check your text and your email, and then watch and then make your list and do your do your 5-minute exercise and your breathing, and you go for a little walk around inside. Have you ever thought about walking inside of the house? No one can see you. I live out in the country, but of course there's farm equipment going by all the time, and it can be very self-conscious to be walking out there, even in the front, because I know someone's going to see me. But at home in the house, I have a route from here clear back down the hall to the library, to the sewing room, and I can come back a couple of times and use up 5 minutes just walking. So he gets up early and leisurely in the morning. Let that sink in, early and leisurely. As I believe in letting the day come to me rather than rushing about with the day. Yeah, rather than trying to catch up with that day, let it come to you. My way, I start out with a contented mind rather than one that is in a state of confusion and unable to plan ahead. You might want to rewind this and listen to that again. So he also kept records and inventories, and he had a household routine. He said, the essence of household management is routine. Certain tasks must be done regularly to keep things up to standard. And he said you have to write up a schedule for routine tasks, such as polishing furniture and cleaning silver. If the appearance of your possessions does not let you know that it's time to care for them, your calendar will. So now I'm going to skip over to dishwashing. I was curious about what he would think about dishwashing, because I'm going to have, obviously we're not going to have each individual be able to run the dishwasher, although we do, if you have a dishwasher, it's important to teach people to bust their own area of the table and to rinse the dishes off. We try to keep our drains protected, so take a paper towel, wipe the plate as clean as you can get it, and throw the paper towel away, and then put your dish in the dishwasher so that it will clean better. But this is hand washing, so I think this was before dishwashers. And he makes the statement that you need 2 dish pans, and I do have 2 plastic pans that I put inside the sink. And the reason, I have one for rinse and one for that bubbly soapy wash. And the reason is, if you plug up your sink and you fill that up, and then you splash a little bit, that water's going to go all over the cabinet top and the floor. But if you have these pans that you dump out when you're finished, it goes down the drain, and you also can run hot water on the side, and it will go down the drain. Or you can add hot water, but if you fill your sink with it, you're in trouble. If you plug your sink up, it's more versatile and better to have these pans. And so that's what I have always done, and I taught my kids to do that too. And he says you need to wear rubber gloves because you need to protect your hands. That way you can get your water as hot as you want. And you should have a draining rack. We call it a drainer here. And you need extra, they call them bar towels here. You can get a big old stack of these white towels, and you can use them to mop up any water that's all over the place. And so one of the pans is for washing the dishes, the other is for rinsing. Now I've seen dishwashing soap and liquid that will say no rinse needed, but I wouldn't trust that at all, not at all. And if those plates and cups do not come out squeaky clean without spots on them, then you do need to rinse them. And also you have to understand that whatever you drink or eat out of them is going to taste a little bit like that soap. If you've got a dishwasher that doesn't have a rinse on it, all you have to do is run it through again without soap, and there's your rinse, and make sure it's hot. So he says, I prefer to wash in a dishpan because most sink stoppers are not watertight, and a dishpan holds water better. Now I just got mine at the Dollar Tree. I believe they're made of vinyl, and they fit in the sink, so I have a double sink in that sense. If you are washing up in a dishpan, any water that slops over the side can run down the drain. Whereas if you are washing in a sink full of water and it splashes over, you and the kitchen floor are both going to get wet. And finally, it's quicker to empty water out of a dishpan than to drain the sink. Plastic dish pans are better than enameled metal ones because they don't scratch the dishes. In the old days, we used small wooden ones that were made for us by a cooper. Until after the war, he's talking about a different war, our detergent was a soft soap that we whipped into lather with whisks like those used for cream, but 3 times as long. Nowadays, a mild detergent does an excellent job. To make detergent lather faster, sprinkle powder or squirt liquid into your dishpan before adding water. And then he said, wash. This is the way my mother taught us. This is how we cleared the table. Is you get ready to wash and you stack all the glasses and cups first, nearer to the sink and the dishpan, and then after that you do the plates, and then you do the dessert dishes, and you do the cutlery, and the pots and pans are very last. And that was in the days when we couldn't change the water very often because you had to heat it and start over. So you took the dirtiest dishes and put them at the end of the line, and your cleanest things that touched your mouth, the glassware and the cutlery, the forks and spoons, would be the first in the wash. But we always had a rinse pan first to get all the debris off of them, so that soapy water would last a little longer till we could get the pots and pans done. And you can examine each item more minutely if you wash and dry them separately. It is as quick as in any way. So wash glasses, the less greasy items first, then spoons, forks, knives, then plates and serving dishes. If your pots and pans are not already out of the way, clean them last. Finish washing one set of items before going on to the next. That's what we do. We get all the glassware washed, put in the rinse water, and put in the drainer. Then we would start the next batch. You can wash all your glasses in the same dishpan of water, change your water, then wash all your cutlery, change your water again, wash all your plates. I wash glasses and knives in tepid water, and the rest of my washing is done in hot water, as hot as my hands can stand it. So, he has a whole thing here on washing and rinsing. If washing up isn't thoroughly rinsed, it will dry, smeary, and dull. That's one reason I love the dishwasher, as it sanitizes it so well. Nothing should be greasy or feel greasy or have a smear on it. Everything but glass and bone-handled knives should be rinsed in very hot water. I didn't really know that you really can't wash the glass in very hot water. Also, later on he mentions drying it with a cotton towel that isn't fuzzy, because if you choose one that's too fuzzy, some of that fuzz gets off on the glasses. But that's one reason I like the dishwasher. It rinses it and has a dry cycle. So he has a technique here, and I wanted to read that to you just to encourage you. And I'm not telling you to buy the book. It just might put more stress on you. If you're doing well and you like the way you're doing it, that's good enough. And so, ladies, I hope this has been helped you, and I hope you got quite a bit done. If not, you can play it over. I'll put it on the playlist. If you didn't quite get enough done, you can listen to the very next one. And I hope to, you know what? I forgot to show you my teacup, so I'll use this time to show it to you. This is one of the Stitch Called China from Home Goods, and I really like the inside there. And it has a little dip in it where you can set your cup and it doesn't move. I wish they were all made this way. This is one of the newer ones, but it still has this beautiful old-timey look in it. It looks white on the outside, but I just love this. So I hope that you got a lot done, and thank you for your comments too, and I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. God bless. Bye.